Today, I'm going to share with you a day of 33mm street photography. This was a photo session I had several months ago, and it was sort of reintroducing myself back into street photography. Environment-wise, not style-wise, because I always try to keep some sort of candid element to my photos. We're going to cover the thought process I went through during the street session, things I tried, things I learned, mistakes I made, etc. And hopefully you'll find some of these things useful or interesting. Let's begin. Warming up. My sole purpose this day was to get more comfortable shooting in a downtown environment again. I had been typically shooting in my usual sunset spots and had fallen out of the rhythm of closer environments. I'd gotten comfortable with more open spaces, and it was challenging to get used to lenses like the 33mm APS-C and cameras like the X Pro 3. You may remember from my 33mm f1.4 review, but that focal length was giving me some trouble. I'd been using it a lot with the X Pro 3, and there were some challenges I was facing. That being my comfort level with the focal length itself and the screen of the X Pro 3. So I had a small theory that if I paired the lens with the X-T4, I'd have an easier time shooting with it. So that was this day. With me, I brought the X-T4, the 33mm f1.4, and a variable ND filter to help me control light and shoot wide open. And the day itself started out pretty normal. I had tried to get started a little before golden hour to get a few shots in, so by the time golden hour peaked, I was already in the flow of things. And whenever I begin, I like to get the first few shots out of the way. This helps me get over any trigger anxiety I might have. And I did this by focusing on perspectives and angles. Simple street point of views, buildings, light and shadow, and inanimate objects. Those are generally easy for me to pick out and sort of ease myself into before moving on to pictures with people in them. Plus, it keeps things lower stakes and more relaxed. This is because I like to think of my photo sessions as kind of just normal walks where I'm also taking pictures, as opposed to more serious photo sessions where I'm trying to accomplish something or build something or whatever. Low stakes. So that's how the day started off, very simple, easy warm-up shots. Before we continue, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, Skillshare. Now, we usually don't have sponsors, but Skillshare has been kind enough to help support what we're doing here. You've probably heard of them by now, but if you're not familiar, Skillshare is an online learning platform that helps creative people like you and me learn and master a variety of skills like photography, creating a YouTube channel, and even running an online business. And as we enter the fall season, it's a perfect time to learn new skills, dial back in, and get productive again. You guys know this, but I'm a fan of learning new skills and acquiring knowledge. I believe that knowledge plus experience are the two primary components of learning, acquiring that knowledge and then implementing it and experiencing it firsthand. And Skillshare can greatly help with that. I myself am checking out classes on productivity and how to be more productive, specifically on how to organize your workflow to maximize productivity. Plus, did you know that there's a new and improved class system that includes topics on things like creative careers, creative inspiration, and AI, smarter class categories, and even the ability to find classes by software and material? So if you'd like to learn more and improve in the things that you're interested in, you can join the Skillshare community down below. The first 500 people to use the link will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. People and timing. As I moved throughout the city, the day progressed, the sun started to set, and things got better. I always try to time my photo sessions around when the sun is setting, so that when golden hour is hitting, I'm in the right places with the right mindset. It just makes it so that the best photos get the best light at the best time. So I let my feet carry me to places with more people as I got more comfortable. I think this is a pretty important aspect about street photography, to not only follow your eye, but to let your feet take you where they want to go. This takes some experience to be able to trust your own intuition, but can often lead you to places you wouldn't have gone otherwise, which would end up getting you photos you normally wouldn't have gotten. And during this time, the lens performed great. I was really starting to feel the 33mm, and I think the screen of the X-T4 played a big role in this. On the X Pro 3, it was a bit more challenging because I had to slow down to properly frame the shots. Environment also played a big role. In a downtown area, everything is a bit more crowded, which makes the area more suited to things like the 23mm or 35 equivalent, but the 33 or 50 equivalent was quite nice as well. The focal length makes it easier to block off things, cut out stuff you don't want in your pictures, and you don't have to walk as much to get as close. There was a bit of luck that factored into this day as well. On this particular day, there was some business convention or something, so there was a lot of people in suits going out to eat, exploring the place in a hurry, which gave me a lot more subjects to play around with. Now, I'm not sure why, but I think this picture of this group of people walking down the stairwell might be my favorite shot of the day. It's nothing crazy, I just like the light of the shot and the contrast between this woman's orange jacket and the blue of the water. But debatably, this shot of the lady walking by, framed within different lines of the building, is objectively quite nice as well. So anyways, lots of good images this day. I was pretty happy with how things went. Now, by this time, the sun was getting lower and golden hour was coming to an end. I spent the rest of the time using what light I had to get some closing shots of the docks. These ones of the lighthouse are pretty nice. And this one of the ship in the background, the little house on the water, and the rocks in the foreground, I really like as well. It was good timing with the time of the day. I was able to get some of that golden light onto the image. So that's another thing about photography. It can be very time sensitive, especially when you consider how fast the sun sets at the later stages of golden hour. You really only have 10 to 15 minutes to get your shots in, because otherwise the lighting and the color itself will shift. And if you wait too long, you'll be taking more blue hour type photos, which isn't a bad thing, but it will change the look and feel of your images. So that's just something to keep in mind. This means you have to be quick and selective about the shots you're taking. And something I like to do when I personally don't know which shot is going to be better is to cover all of my bases. I try to take as many variations of the same shot as possible, a horizontal, vertical, and the same shot at different focal lengths if I'm using a zoom lens, of course. Then I can compare which was the best shot for this particular photo later. And that way I don't have to worry about it so much in the present. Because sometimes it's hard to know which shot or composition is going to look the best, so I just take them all. Because the clock's ticking and it's better to get all those shots rather than look at it later and say, oh man, I knew it would look better this way. So here you'll see some of the shots with the rocks and without the rocks. And between these shots you can tell I'm trying to play with the spacing a bit to get the ship and the house and the rocks equidistant. It's a lot of trial and error, experimentation, and just seeing what works. Little things like that make me appreciate shooting on digital because with film you're limited on exposures. And I can't really cover all my bases, I have to pick in that moment which shot is the best. Which sometimes, in the moment, you really don't know which one is going to be better. Let's move on. Areas for improvement. Throughout this photo session, there were a lot of things I learned and a lot of things that could be improved upon. Looking back on it, I had a few blurry or unsharp images because I was just trying to move too fast. And this wasn't because I was using too slow of a shutter speed. For most of the time, I had my shutter speed at 1/500th and above, sometimes even 1/1000th. So I figured that the only other possible reason for this blur was because I was trying to shoot too fast. This is a bad habit or tendency that I've noticed in my photography many times before. On cameras like the V, it doesn't seem to be as much of a problem, but with the 33mm, the lens is bigger. It's a longer lens and the nose determines what you're taking a photo of, which means there's more literal axis kind of rotation to be done to get the same kind of angle, meaning there will be more motion in your image if you try to move too quickly, which is something that happens when you're trying to get candids. If you're trying to catch the moment, there will be times you have to be fast and times you have to be slow, depending on how early you see the moment. So keeping that in mind is a big one for this day. If I just saw things earlier, I have more time to predict the moment instead of trying to catch up and move my camera too quickly, or even just reminding myself to be more patient, slower, and predictive. That's the big takeaway from this photo session. But overall, I was happy with how this photo session went. We got a lot of good images, learned some, and got more comfortable with the gear and environment again. Also, this was one of those more good days, just so you know. Most of the time, I go out and I don't get that much stuff. And sometimes I'll go on entire walks and only take 4 to 5 pictures. So not every day is like this, I'm just trying to set those expectations reasonable. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this, I hope you found it interesting or maybe learned something. And if you have any tips that have helped you out with shooting 33mm APS-C sized, please let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you like photo books, check out The Sinking Sun, my latest photography zine, and get a free 4x6 print while you're at it. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in another video. Take care. Peace.